All right, this election is also being closely watched all around the world. The results and what's to come set to impact everything from the global economy to the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. And we have right here in studio with us NBC's chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, following the reaction overseas. The reaction coming in quickly, isn't it?
It's coming in very quickly. Yeah. And there are two camps. There are those who think they can work with Donald Trump. They're kind of excited about it. I would put the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Russia in that camp. We've seen a response from Russia that it's quite encouraged because they believe he's going to scale back U.S. support for Ukraine. There was a Russian reaction, a Russian official already saying, well, Trump is a businessman, so he looks at the bottom line, and he's not going to want to waste all that money overseas supporting the war in Ukraine. Then you have a very nervous reaction, particularly coming out of Europe. You know, there are two mainstays of democracy in the world, Europe and the United States. And they're very worried that the democratic foundations of the United States could be weakened under Donald Trump. They're worried about democracy writ large. They're worried about NATO. So a lot of edgy concern in Europe. And then in Israel, it seems like Prime Minister Netanyahu is very excited.
Let's talk about the Middle East. Netanyahu released a statement. He certainly has a pep in his step. He was, many analysts thought that he was trying to run out the clock in terms of whether to negotiate a ceasefire or a peace deal, hoping that Donald Trump would be victorious. And now he has. So how do you think this plays out?
Well, it seems very likely that Netanyahu was hoping that this was going to happen, that he was preparing for this. You know, he just fired his defense minister the other day. His defense minister was more keen to negotiate, more keen to find some sort of diplomatic solution. And actually, Netanyahu had blocked his defense minister from reaching out to the Biden administration. Now he's fired him entirely. So what is Netanyahu planning? Well, he's made it quite clear that he wants to see a military alliance against Iran. He wants more action taken. He wants to build the Abraham Accord into an Abraham military alliance against Iran. And he's made it clear that he hopes that and thinks that Donald Trump is going to be fully supportive of that. So Iran, even though Iran came out and expressed a kind of a blasé reaction, it's going to be nothing. We see no difference. I think they should be much more concerned.
What about the war in Ukraine is obviously, it was a big campaign issue. So now what? Donald Trump said, I can stop that thing and I can do it in 24 hours. So what's the plan?
Well, you can stop the war in 24 hours if you want to. You just have to cut off the tap to President Zelensky. You'd have to cut off all the weapons. But that would mean a very inglorious end to the war. It would mean Ukraine having to cede a lot of territory to Russia, see Russia making advance, rewarding Russia for its invasion of Ukraine and seizing 20% of the country.
I was going to say the argument for those who support funding the war in Ukraine is if you let Putin do it in Ukraine, he won't stop there. He'll move into Poland. He'll move into other
Putin has said he won't do that.
Europe.
He said he would never do that. He wanted that piece of eastern Ukraine in order to connect it to Crimea. But Putin has also said that he had no choice but to invade, and that this wasn't a war of choice, which, of course, it was a war of choice. So what Putin says and what he does don't always match up. But, yes, if President Zelensky was one of the first people to come out and congratulate President Trump, not surprisingly, because he has his entire country on the line here, he needs to try and rebuild this relationship with President Trump. So he's going to want to reach out and say, you know, we're best friends. Let's get on the same page. But deep down, he's profoundly nervous. Yeah. The government there is profoundly nervous that Trump is going to cut him off in order to force a very quick end to the war.
What about NATO allies? Because, of course, Donald Trump has made no secret of his, maybe disdain is too strong of a word, but he's certainly...
Pretty close.
Yeah, okay, all right, close enough.
He spent 4 years, basically shaking them down for money, blackmailing them, saying, you all a bunch of deadbeats, you need to pay up your share or we're going to leave the organization. Now, that approach worked to a degree. NATO countries did contribute more. They did increase their spending. But he also sent a message that he doesn't believe in the organization. He doesn't believe that NATO does what it's supposed to do. NATO was established after World War II to sort of champion the United States cause, to keep peace and stability in Europe, but primarily to maintain European and American dominance over the world, really. And if he doesn't believe in it, that makes a lot of people in NATO very, very concerned.
Much to discuss.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.